Hi, I'm Quincy Williams, and this is Josh. And today we're going to be doing an Astrand steady state cycle test in order to be able to guess what VO2 max would be. Josh is doing his warm up right now. He's a healthy individual, exercises multiple times a week, no cardiovascular risk factors, so shouldn't be extra precautions that we'll have to take. I took his vital signs beforehand. Everything was within normal range, resting heart rate of about 68, and his blood pressure was 122 over 76, so perfectly normal, nothing out of the ordinary. So in just about a minute, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take his heart rate and blood pressure again, just to make sure a normal response. We should see an increase in heart rate and in blood pressure, not too extreme, just making sure he's responding properly. And then after that, we'll go ahead and start the test. Right now he's at 25 watts, just a basic warm-up, nothing intense. When we start the test, we're going to bump him up to 100 watts. And then after 2 minutes, we'll take our first measurement. And if he's within his submax heart rate range, I'll measure it again in 1 minute after that to see if he's in there, and then the test will be complete. So I'm going to go ahead and take his heart rate. Okay, so his heart rate is 84, slight increase like we would expect. And now I'm going to go ahead and do blood pressure. So his blood pressure is 132 over 78, so again what we would expect. So now we're going to go ahead and get started with the test. So like I said before, I'm just going to increase the wattage to 100. And now the test has begun, so in 2 minutes I'll take that first measurement and see if we're in that submax range, which calculated for him with an age adjustment, it will be 112 to 159 beats per minute. What's your current RP or rate of perceived exertion at this time, Josh?
7.
Okay, about what you'd expect since he was just doing a warm-up, nothing too terribly intense. And then I'll check it in at the 2 minute mark. We should see a slight increase again, but nothing too major because he's a healthy individual. And let me know if you have any symptoms, weakness, faintness, any of that sort of things, and then we'll stop the test.
Oh, yeah. You're from...
And during this time, I'll just kind of keep an eye out on him, looking for any signs or symptoms that we would need to stop the test. We would stop the test if his heart rate dropped dramatically, 10 beats per minute, or just even at all. Just with exercise, it should always be increased or leveled off like we're going to achieve today. With his blood pressure, if it went above 200 systolic, or if the diastolic dropped, we would just stop the test immediately. I don't foresee that happening, but
Hope not.
yeah, hope not too. I'm going to go ahead and start doing his first measurement of heart rate, and then I'll also do blood pressure. Okay, so his current heart rate is 108, so we're still not quite at that submax range. Remember, the bottom line of that is 112 to 159. That represents 60 to 85% of his VO2 max. But I will go ahead and do blood pressure. And now his blood pressure is 140 over 80, so it's still in normal range. Just gotta clip this back on. So now we're going to wait 2 more minutes since he's not in his sub-max range yet, and measure again. If I can get this thing to stay on. What would you say your rate of perceived exertion is at this point?
8.
Okay, so still pretty minimal exertion. Again, in a healthy individual, this is about what you would expect. So in 1 minute, we'll measure again, and at this point, I would be pretty surprised if he wasn't in that sub-max range that I mentioned. I'll wait 1 more minute after that, and then measure again, and as long as we're within 5 beats above or below of that, then we'll do a cool down, and then we'll finish. Oh, and I forgot to say this at the beginning, but for the entire time, he's been keeping his cycling rate at 50 revolutions per minute, and there's actually a measurement on here, so he can just kind of self-evaluate and keep track of that, so we stay at the proper level. So 15 more seconds, and we'll do our next measurement. Okay, so his current heart rate is 124 in that sub-max range, so I'm just going to wait 1 more minute. I'll measure again, and as long as we're within 5 above and below, then we'll go ahead and start his cool down. I'll also go ahead and do blood pressure again while I wait for that minute. And his blood pressure is still about 140 over 80, so still correct response. All right, now I'm going to do the last measurement. Okay, so he's at 128 beats per minute, and that's still within the sub-max range, so now we can go ahead and start our cool down. So he's going to drop it back down to 25, and then we're going to go for another 3 or 5 minutes, and I would just measure the vitals at the end just to make sure that he's having a normal response and his heart rate and blood pressure are going back down.